Let's talk some chess. This game features a really cool, unique, exciting attacking combination towards the end. The two players are named Edwin Adams and Carlos Torre Repetto. Carlos Torre Repetto is famous for the Lasker windmill. He put Lasker in an awesome windmill sort of attack. I've reviewed that game on my channel as well. And this game also features a sort of funny combination towards the end. So similar style. This game was played in New Orleans in 1920, and it opened with e4. We have e5 by black, knight to f3, developing with an attack on this pawn, and just d6 protecting the pawn. Adams plays d4, wanting to break open the center, and black takes on d4, and queen takes back on d4. And keep an eye on this queen on d4. It's obviously a very central queen controlling a bunch of squares, and the game is sort of going to develop and open around this queen, but it's going to influence a lot of the moves that sort of happen, so just keep an eye on it. Black here plays knight to c6, very natural move developing with an attack on the queen, but here white has this bishop to b5 move which pins the knight to the king, so the knight obviously cannot take the queen because then the king would be hanging, which obviously cannot happen. So bishop to d7 is played, breaking the pin, and now the knight is threatening to capture the queen, so we have bishop takes knight and bishop takes bishop, and white plays knight to c3, just developing naturally. We have knight to f6 by black, and now white castles kingside. Black brings the bishop to e7, and now knight to d5 immediately, which is, of course, an aggressive move, forking the knight and the bishop. Not that you're at risk of losing any pieces, but this is a powerful knight to have on d5, and of course Torre doesn't like this and just trades it off with the bishop on d5. So we have pawn takes on d5, and now this is a useful pawn because it's sort of clogging up the position, and the knight, of course, cannot take because the queen is defending it. So first black castles, and then we have bishop to g5 by white. So a lot of pressure now on this f6 square, although of course the knight is defended many times by the pawn, the bishop, and the queen. So not in danger of losing a piece just yet. Now we have c6, so attacking this pawn. Again, the knight is not threatening to take the pawn because the queen would capture back. And here white wants to keep the pawn on d5, so plays c4, adding some protection, and we have a pawn trade on d5. Now we have rook to e8, and this is sort of the start of an important sequence. So the rook is coming to an open file, trying to establish dominance along the e-file. But the problem is that the bishop is blocking this file, and that will become important in a moment, and it's hard to get the bishop to a better square. Obviously, this pawn is completely stuck. It can't go anywhere. The knight doesn't have any good squares to move to. These sort of retreat squares are cut off. And this bishop is going to make it hard for this rook to get actually very active and do much. So in the meantime, white plays rook f to e1, now controlling this e-file, basically what the black rook wants to do but cannot because the bishop is in the way. And here black plays a5, getting some expansion on the queen side. And now white plays rook to e2, preparing to double up the rooks along the e-file and just control this e-file totally. And this is sort of the crucial moment here. The correct move that black needs to play is queen to d7. And then after queen to d7, after you double up on the e-file, then you can play h6, kicking the bishop away from this nice diagonal, and the bishop has to retreat to d2. So this would be the proper way to kind of continue, and in this position, it's pretty even. White has a very small advantage, but this is totally fine for black. The problem here is that black, instead of putting the queen on d7, plays a very natural looking move, rook to c8, and this looks totally fine. You're controlling the open file, but as we'll see, it gives white too much time to get an attack going and start a really funny sequence of events. So just remember, we'll talk about it again, but the queen has to be on d7 here. So here, white jumps into it by doubling up the rooks on the e-file, and now black plays this queen to d7 move, and we'll see the reason for playing queen to d7 in a moment. But now you're in trouble because now white takes the knight on f6, and now here black takes back with the bishop on f6. But now we enter into the sort of the crazy sequence. And the key idea here is that, of course, the king is stuck on the back rank. It's blocked by these three pawns, and you really have to be careful about a back rank mate here. It's white's move, and if white obviously takes this rook, this would come with check. And it's okay right now because you could take back with the rook, take back with the rook, queen takes back, and this is totally fine. But it's dependent on the queen defending this rook on e8. So black needs to have this queen defending the rook in some way, shape, or form. It can't defend the rook from e7, and it also can't defend the rook from d8 because if the queen here, let me see if I can let me just play a silly move and put the queen on d8. Then this is great for white because then rook takes forks the king and the queen, and you're going to win a queen. And after all is said and done, white has a queen for a rook, and this is totally winning for white. So the queen basically does not have many squares from which it can defend the rook on e8. It basically has this diagonal. Kind of, I want to go back to the reason why the queen had to be on d7. So let's remember we saw this move, rook to c8, which looks like a good move, but is not because you need to get the queen on d7. The reason why is because in this position, it might look like you can play h6, kind of kicking this bishop away or forcing this bishop to make a decision, but it doesn't work because the queen is on d8. So let's sort of see what happens. So we get bishop takes. And now if you take with the bishop, if you take back with the bishop, then you get rook to e8 with check, and it's the same idea as before, where the rook is forking the king and the queen. Queen takes, rook takes, and again, this is winning for white. So here the queen is attacked, and you have to worry about back rank mate, but that's totally fixed with just you actually don't even have to move the queen to d1 because the knight is protecting e1. So this is completely winning. So that's why the queen, if the queen is on d7, then you don't have this rook takes on e8 forking the queen and the rook. So that's why sort of this doesn't work. And so that's why this h6 move doesn't work, because then after bishop takes knight, then you're basically, if you take back with the bishop, you lose the queen by that same fork we talked about with the rook. And if you take with the pawn, this is even worse. Then you get the g file is open, and the queen just comes to g4 with check. And now it's going to be really tough to stop the combination of the knight, the queen, and these two rooks, which are still threatening, to fork the queen if it can. So here you get king to h8, queen to h3, threatening the h6 pawn with check. King moves to g7 to protect the pawn, but now you get this g3 move, which we'll see why that's important, or maybe we won't see, but so it's sort of just a waiting move, and now you get bishop to f8, kind of adding some protection and sort of getting out of the way, but now you just get the queen to g4, king retreats, and now the rook takes, and now you're either going to lose the queen or something more important. So basically, that was not the best explanation, but the point is it may look like after bishop takes, you can take with the pawn, but you can't because you run into the same sequence. Again, if you take with the bishop, it doesn't work. So all that to be said, the queen has to be on d7 here, otherwise you just lose a piece when the bishop takes the knight. So that's the idea. That's why sort of this rook to c8 move didn't work. You need the queen to be on d7. I know I'm hammering that point, but I promise it will pay off. And again, we saw the rook to e1. Now we see queen to d7, but now it's too late because after bishop takes, just like we were saying before, now there's this threat of checkmate, a back rank mate if the rooks can take on e8, and if the queen is not defending this e8 square. And remember we said that these are the only squares that the queen can defend from, and this is where things start to get really funny. So here, Adams, and I promise it's worth it, Adams starts to just repeatedly try to sacrifice his queen. So first he plays queen to g4. This is just a blatant queen sacrifice. But of course, if the black queen takes the white queen, then you just have rook check, rook takes, and rook checkmate, so a back rank mate. So essentially, the white queen is trying to deflect the black queen from the defense of this e8 square. Of course, black does not accept the sacrifice and moves the queen to b5, and then just hilariously, we have this queen to c4 move, a double sacrifice. Again, just moving the queen around and asking for it to be taken. So again, if the queen takes, it's the same, rook checkmate as before. Rook takes, that'll be checkmate. And here, if the rook takes, you can take with the rook, but that doesn't work because after rook takes, queen takes, this is checkmate as well. So a double sacrifice by the queen. He's saying just, there's my queen, please accept the sacrifice. But of course, black can't. And notice that the squares that the black queen can defend from are starting to become limited. So the pawn's taking c6, the queen is taking, indeed, the queen is taking c6 and b5 and a4. So the black queen is forced to move to d7, which is the only available square to protect this rook from. But now you get another insistence, queen to c7. Again, same idea. Black cannot take the queen because of double checkmate, or sorry, double rook takes checkmate. not double checkmate. That would be sick. Again, rook takes doesn't work, so just another insistent sacrifice. And here you get queen to b5, retreating and staying in defense of the e8 square, and then a4. So this move will make sense in a moment. Again, attacking this queen. The queen has to stay on this diagonal, so takes on a4. But now we have rook to e4, and now it's going to be difficult to stay. So here we have queen to b5, and now see if you can find kind of the winning move, the finishing move for white. Well, I give you a moment. Keep the idea of trying to deflect this queen away from the protection of the e8 square. So see if you can find that. Okay, so the winning move and the last move in this game before Carlos Torre Repetto resigned is queen takes on b7. And now another, insistent queen sacrifice, but essentially white has done the job of covering all of the squares that the black queen can defend e8 from. There are no more squares that the black queen can go to where it won't be captured, so the game is essentially over. Again, if you accept the queen sacrifice, it's just checkmate, which we've seen a bunch of times, and no matter where, the queen cannot defend. The queen cannot move and defend the rook at the same time. So here, the best move per Stockfish is just to play h6, give the king some room to run, but then of course you just lose the queen. So that's, that doesn't really work. And it looks like almost black can take the rook for free because of this, black back rank mate, but then you get queen blocks, and even if you take the queen, this is winning for white because you are up an entire rook. So just a really fun game. I've never seen so many attempted queen sacrifices in a row, but the whole idea is just to trying to get the black queen off of these squares, and white finally accomplished that. And as soon as white accomplished that, the game was over. So hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Drop a like, drop subscribe, and we'll see you next time.